Hello and welcome to my feedback for your group on your Google Hangout 4 for the planning exercise for a special event related to the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, and your particular part of the participation in that was planning of the parade. So let me touch on some of the things that your group did that I really enjoyed seeing your discussions. You broke into the command and general staff positions. So on command, you had the incident commander, and then you had activated the planning section, the operations section, and the logistics and finance. So with an understanding that you are going to have the entire incident management team and a lot of different functions activated during a planning process. And you started by looking at environmental design for your event. So, what type of, as Glenn says, vertical and horizontal urban considerations were involved in planning for this event. And obviously, you have a large jurisdiction, fourth largest in the country as far as the county of, the statistical area, metropolitan area for Houston, 6 million people. I think at some point in the event, you did mention that you had you would be working, I think Glenn talked about working and coordinating closely with Harris County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. And obviously that is also, and you would be working with Houston Emergency Center or HAC. So you'll be working with both, with Harris County naturally having the county jurisdiction, and the event is happening in the city of Houston. So you would have both of those entities that would be activated for that special event. And keep in mind, Houston is the hub to the largest medical complex in the world. So Texas Medical Center, TMC, has what's called critical Medical Operations Center, or CMOC. So with the events of that scale, planned events, particularly in your case, you had some indication of possible health issue scenario. You would be working very closely with the entire corridor of all the different hospitals and different sectors, and they would be involved in the planning process, and you have identified that. And so tactically, you looked at, designated the perimeter for your specific area of concern, and you looked at aspects of architecture, so the buildings, the businesses, the critical infrastructure, which, Glenn identified good research there on banks and city halls and gas, oil industry, tunnels, underground passages for pedestrians, and you were strategizing about planning for what to do with that critical infrastructure. So that would be involved in a planning process as far as a lockdown. You discussed a lockdown. You discussed what would all those businesses do if they had their own passes to view the event from the buildings. And Shauna had some good input on that. As a private business owners, they would have some standard operating procedures for that. You discussed the amount of intersections to be controlled, and access and egress from the parade event for the 250,000 people. You were discussing reinforcements. I think Christine had really good discussion about hardening of the perimeter, particularly with the vehicle improvised events that we've had as of late in pedestrian areas in Europe and Nice and in London and in Sweden. So some concerns about, how do you contract with private security companies. I think you talked about vendors and contractors and agencies that would provide additional security for that, and different entities from possibly the National Guard. I think that you talked about pre-designated resources from FEMA Region 6, what would be pre-positioned as far as, their readiness to assist you, since it is a multi-jurisdictional. Of course, you mentioned unified command. Clearly, this is going to this one of the largest events of the year now, even though we did have a Super Bowl 51. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit because I was part of the oversight of that as well. So you looked at parking structures,